Hello, welcome to another episode of HazMat 101 Consultant Spotlight. Today we're going to be spotlighting Gwinnett County Fire Rescue's HazMat rig. Today we have with us Lieutenant Mark Wade. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Bob. How are you?
Good, good, good. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Mark Wade, and I'm a lieutenant with Gwinnett County Fire Department. I have been with Gwinnett for about 16 years now. I got served through the ranks of firefighter, driver engineer, and I'm now a lieutenant on the HazMat team.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your HazMat team and how it's ran and how many people you have on it.
Okay. Well, our HazMat team got formed back in about 1986, which was well before my time working there. It initially was set up at our station 11, which is in Norcross, Georgia. At the time, it was about the only station that was large enough to house the HazMat truck, a ladder truck, an engine, and a squad truck in order to have the manpower for that team. It ended up being a pretty strategic location for it to be. Gwinnett County is a fairly large area. It's the largest fire protection district in Georgia. So we have 437 square miles that we cover. In Gwinnett County, we have a major interstate that runs through, Interstate 85. We also have a major state highway, State Highway 316. And we also have two major rail lines that run through as well. And Station 11 in Norcross was right on the interstate. So as the boom came, the industrial boom in the 80s and 90s, it was a great location for that to be in. So they saw a lot of progress. And initially, that HazMat team, they were operating out of kind of an old bread stock truck, and they ran your typical roadway emergencies, fuel leaks, and things like that. Then as time went on, the HazMat team was moved to a newer station, which was Station 19, and it was there for a short period of time before eventually in 1995 it made it to Station 20, which is where it's at now. So at Station 20, we currently operate a engine, a squad truck, which is just a light duty rescue 4-person truck, which is manpower for the HazMat team. We have our HazMat truck, which we'll see here on the program today, which is staffed with 2 personnel. We also have a 3,000 gallon water tender and then 2 HazMat resource pods that we operate.
And you guys got a full house going on there.
Yeah, it's a pretty big station, so we got a lot going on there.
Now, what's the typical type of HazMat calls, your bread and butter kind of stuff that you guys go on all the time?
I think a lot of it is pretty typical to what you would see, nationwide. We're running your typical natural gas leaks, are probably the most common thing that we do. Fuel leaks on the interstate, fuel leaks on the state highways, things of that nature. We also get calls for metering, for inside gas leaks, natural gas leaks, and things of that nature.
So now, do you guys run mutual aid for other departments too, or are you just specifically for your department?
We are mainly just for our department, but we do have a regional response to where some of the outlying areas, some of the counties that are around us don't have as much of a well-developed HazMat team. So we can go and assist them whenever they call for help.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, that's 400 something square miles. That's a pretty big coverage.
Yeah, it's a large area to cover. We've got 31 stations that cover that territory. So that's 31 engines, 12 truck companies, 31 ambulances. So we got a lot going on.
Now, do you guys have like satellite hazmat? I don't want to say hazmat units, but like for us, we had certain truck companies were hazmat truck companies, and we would, that hazmat truck company would go with, say, hazmat one who had a driver on it if engine 101 was busy. You guys have any system like that, or?
Right. So we try to staff most of our hazmat techs at Station 20. So usually our squad truck is 4 hazmat techs on it. The hazmat has 2 of our hazmat techs, and then the engine, we try to keep at least 2 hazmat techs on if we can. If for some reason we needed additional people, we also have our trench rescue team, which is at Station 24. They are all certified as hazmat technicians as well, and we utilize them when needed as a backup team.
Perfect, perfect. Now, do they have the same kind of rig you guys have, or something different, like a
They
heavy
have a
rescue kind
squad
of thing?
truck like we do. So it is the same light duty squad truck that has 4 personnel on it, but then they also have a totally different TRT and a GSAR truck that they operate.
With all their trench rescue and all that, I'm sure.
Yeah, with all that
Right,
stuff. So that's totally different than our hazmat setup.
right. Okay, great. All right, well, let's jump right into the pictures.
All right, so what we're looking at, this is our first out hazmat truck, and the truck itself is a 2006 Spartan Gladiator chassis. It has a EVI body on it. The truck is about 37 feet long, and it is about 12 feet tall. It's 42,000 pound gross vehicle weight, and overall, it's been a pretty good truck for us. Once we go to the pictures inside, you'll see we operate a command center in the front, and we have two people in the front, and then a command center in the back half of the cab, and then a command center also in the body of the cab.
And this is where you have that command part that comes out, which we'll see in a minute, right?
Yeah, on this side of the truck, you can see just where the body begins. There's a slide out there for our command center.
And what do you guys have on that side of the truck?
So on this side of the truck, starting underneath the command center slide out, there are two small rectangular compartments there. Those house our HazMat SCBA. So we have 3 60-minute Scott air packs in both of those compartments. In the first roll-up door, we have access to the core reel for the generator for the truck. The truck has a 25 kilowatt generator on it. Also in that compartment are our miscellaneous lengths of air hoses that we can use for hooking up to our SCBA pony pack or pigtails on our level A suits to go, a longer distance if we need to. That's also where the driver of the rig keeps his gear. In the middle compartment above the rear wheel is we got a couple of slide outs that are on there. So we have one slide out tray that contains a lot of our rope bags and rigging equipment, some of our pipe plugging and patching kits. Then it also has a top shelf that slides down as well, that we carry all of our hand pumps, which would be your cheap hand siphon pumps that are disposable use. We have some nicer rotary pumps that we have up there as well, and some of our non-sparking shovels and tools are there as well. Then we have the two torpedo tubes on the side. Those just house, one is a 45-minute firefighting bottle, the other one is a 60-minute hazmat bottle. And the rear roll-up compartment, we have some extra suits. We have our level B suits and some plain Tyvek suits. Some of the suits that we're using as level Bs right now are the Kepler Lantex 100s, and we also use a jet guard suit as our kind of first out level Bs. In this compartment also, we have our Chromewell kits that we use for patching and plugging, pipes, drums, what have you. And we also have our chlorine kits that are housed in that compartment as well. So this truck has a chlorine A kit and a chlorine B kit on it. We have a chlorine C kit on a separate truck, which I think we'll see at the end of the video here.
So let me ask you a quick question. You said you're the first out suit. Can you say that name again and explain what you mean by first out, and maybe give a instance where you might use that?
So I just mean these are the suits that we're going to go to when we have a response that requires a level B suit. So we have our Kepler Lantex 100 suits, and we also utilize a jet guard suit. So it's just two different types of just a good level B suit, a good step up from your typical cheap Tyvek suit that you might find.
Gotcha.
So we're going to use those on our white powder responses and things like that.
Gotcha.
So this is the slide out part of the cab, or the body that comes out for the command center. I think we'll see the inside picture of that here in a little bit, but you have two desk spaces in there where somebody can sit and operate. And so on the back of the truck here, we have the stairway that goes up to the top. Up at the top, there are 4 large coffin storage boxes. And we keep a good bit of equipment up here. Because of the design of these stairs, it allows us to house some larger, kind of heavier stuff up top. But one of the things that we've talked about with future hazmat truck is getting rid of this stairwell in order to save interior space in the truck. That would just mean that we have to kind of lighten up what we put up top, because you'd have to climb a ladder to get up there to do that. So up in the top is where we keep some of the foam storage that is on this truck. We carry several 5-gallon buckets of different varieties that have Spillex in it, Spillex A, Spillex C, Spillex X, and we carry some lime. We carry some of our decon equipment up there, and we also carry a good bit of our zip zorb just in bags up in the top as well.
Now, for decon that you mentioned, is all your engine companies able to assist you in that? Or are they trained in that as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do decon training throughout the department, but all the specialized equipment, other than just doing a gross decon with the hose line, is going to be here on this truck.
Gotcha.
And we have a setup that we go through, and depending on what kind of decon we want to do, we can set up a full decon template where we'll utilize pools to catch runoff, and we have a system of water manifold, hoses, brushes, and wands that is all staged on this truck.
Awesome.
So on this side of the truck, it's kind of hard to see in the picture, but at the very top, we have an awning that comes out to provide us some cover. So typically when we are dressing out, it's going to be on this side of the truck. We have a large tarp that we'll put on the ground, several stools that we'll place that we can have our hot team and our backup team getting set up and ready to go. So just starting at the front, so on the right side of the screen there, that first roll-up compartment, we have several 60-minute HazMat bottles that are spares. Our packs are already preloaded with them and ready to go, so these are the extras. On the shelf below that, it's a little hard to see, but we have a full complement of DeWalt battery-powered tools. And those are actually a little bit older, so we've just upgraded them, and we got a brand new set of Milwaukee tools in just a few days ago. Some of the nice M18 brushless stuff, so that's really good. Next to that on the shelf, we have a small toolbox that has another assortment of non-sparking tools that we can use when we're in a situation with flammable vapors, flammable gas. In the orange container next to that, that's where we store all of our communications equipment. So right now we are using a set of the 3M Peltor headsets. I believe they're the Contact 6s. And we've had them for a little over a year now, and so far we've been really pleased with them. They've served us well so far. Next to that, we have an assortment of different extinguishers, anything ranging from a water can. We have a water can that's got some F500 that's mixed into it, some emulsifier. We carry CO2 extinguisher, a Purple K extinguisher, a couple of Class D extinguishers, so we can respond to a variety of different emergencies with that. And then of course we have the big toolbox that you can see there. The toolbox is laid out very nicely with everything easy to see. This is part of the daily checkoff, so there's a lot of tools in there that need to be accounted for. So everything is in pre-cut foam shapes, so every tool has its place in there. So in the toolbox is your basic hand tools. We carry some of our gap seal, pick putty, products like that. Extra gloves, some of our equipment for grounding and bonding is in the toolbox as well, and some of the equipment that we use for propane burn off.
You got to have a toolbox.
You
got to have a toolbox.
Yeah, that's the most important part of the truck, I think.
A lot of people probably, especially younger firefighters, may not have ever heard of the show MacGyver, which I'm sure you have. Right. And that's all. We're just making stuff on scene with pieces, parts. So the toolbox is critical.
Yeah, some of the stuff on this truck, and that's kind of the way it goes over time, is you gain miscellaneous parts and pieces.
Right.
But it is something that if you know what it is and you know where it is, you can go grab it and you can put some stuff together real quick to get you through in a pinch.
Absolutely.
So moving down to the next compartment, we have on the top shelf there some of our level B flash suits. So the orange ones are kind of an older set of some ThermoPro flash suits. Those have been great for us when we're using on fuel spills. You need to crawl up underneath, an 18-wheeler on the side of the interstate. Those are our go-to suits for that. The aluminum foil, colored suits next to it are some newer ones that we have. Those are Kapler Frontline 300s. So they fulfill the same purpose. They're just a newer version of it. Shelf below that, all of the red bags, those contain our level A suits, and currently we're using a Saint Gobain 1 suit We've been using that ever since I've been on the HazMat team, and so far we haven't found anything that we like that functions better than that. So there's 12 of those there on the truck. Then down below that, we've got some of our HazMat boots, and we're currently wearing, I believe they're Tingley brand, just HazMat boots. So that's where a lot of our suit storage is. Let's see, compartment above the wheel well. We've got some more of our decon equipment. That's where a lot of the garden hoses are kept. We keep some folding sawhorses in there that we can use when we're moving from spot to spot along the decon line. Then again, there's some level A suits below it. Above the wheel well also, you've got our 45-minute and our 60-minute spare bottles again. Then in this last compartment, this is where we keep a lot of our tarps. We have a big slide out there in the middle that contains a lot of our hand tools, which would be spade shovels and flat shovels, sledgehammers, grounding rods, extra PVC pipes that we can use for underflow, overflow dams. We also have a hand truck mounted electric transfer pump in that compartment as well that we can pull out, on the side of the road if we need to offload a fuel tank, offload a drum, anything like that, where we don't want to use one of the hand operated pumps. So that's a great tool to have. In the very bottom of that compartment, there is a large black box, and in that black box we keep our standard equipment that we use for a white powder response. So I know, a lot of teams, in addition to fuel leaks and natural gas leaks, white powder is also, a typical call that we would run. Those white powder scares. So we'll utilize that kit in order to have quick access to sampling products, our pH paper, M8, M9 paper. We have some narcotics testing kits that we keep in there, and a variety of other things, scoops, spoons, swabs, anything like that we might need is all readily accessible in that box there.
It's funny. When 2001 happened, we had started running all the powder calls. I think we were running like 30 or 40 a day, and it was just, we had to put a couple extra units in service. And how far we've come in technology from taking a HazCat kit on the tailboard of a fire truck and trying to figure something out to all the different technologies we have these days. It's just incredible.
Yeah. So we run a fair amount of those a year, really just a handful of them. I think typically we're running about 300 calls or so a year on this HazMat truck. So it's not terribly busy, but we do have some CGI gas meters that have been distributed to all of our ladder truck companies within the past year or so. So that's really cut down on the amount of calls that the HazMat truck itself has to go on, because all of those truck companies now have the ability to do air monitoring on their own.
Nice.
Also in this compartment, up on the top shelf, we have a yellow Pro Pack that we acquired a couple of years ago, and we'll use that for foam. So we'll utilize that for Class A or Class B foam. It's something that's proved to be a lot easier to use for us than dealing with, a 5-gallon bucket of foam and a foam inductor and having all that set up. The Pro Packs have been really good with that. I don't know how familiar you are with those.
Let me tell you, the Pro Pack is the schnizzle whizzle. We put one on every engine company, and I put out a fully involved semi cab with that 2.5 gallon Pro Pack. That was fully involved. It's worth its weight in gold. If anybody is watching this show down the road and you don't have a Pro Pack, and this is not a sales thing for them, but I would definitely look into it, because it's definitely well worth it. And we used it on standby for car fires in case the tanks rupture or extrications and stuff like that. So it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's been useful for us. We actually had a residential fire yesterday, and behind the house there was a large boat that was on fire. And with that Pro Pack, it was great. The HazMat truck responded to it, deployed that Pro Pack, and they were able to get that boat fire out with no problem with that. So it's been really good. We actually got it in our budget this year to purchase one Pro Pack for every one of our 12 truck companies. So every ladder truck will at least have a Pro Pack on it.
Nice.
In addition to that Pro Pack, we also have a decon pack, which is the same concept. It's just made for doing decon with. So we'll utilize that as well as part of our decon line if we need to. And with that, we have some, right behind that Pro Pack there, we have some spill fighter decon solutions. So in addition to that, we'll use, your typical Dawn or Tide laundry detergent as decon. Then we also have some more specialized stuff like some fiber protect wipes and some Dahlgren decon solution we can mix up as well.
Very nice.
Let's see, on the shelf below that, that's just more of the kits for the decon pack there and for the pro pack. This is also the compartment that we keep a lot of our decon just supplies in. So our Tide powders are in there and things like that. And I believe that's about it for that compartment, that side of the truck. It's kind of hard to see, but up on the top, we also have a command light, one of the big folding scene lights that comes up, and it's been good to use in the past when needed. And there's also a TV antenna up top.
Perfect.
So yeah, this side of the truck, like we talked about before, we have our 2 slide outs on the bottom that carry our HazMat packs. So we have 6 60-minute SCBA packs that are there, and the other compartment that has our driver's gear, the air hoses, connections to the generator there. Then in the back, you can see we talked about our chrome well kits there in the red container in the back, and our chlorine kits. There's also a box of APR respirators that we have there for us to use. And then some of the storage totes, those have our level B suits on them, like we talked about.
That you mentioned earlier, right?
Yep. And I think that pretty well covers everything on that side. So looking at this view, this is actually the back of the cab. So we have 2 seats up front, and then this is the rear portion of the cab, which can be used as kind of a research center. This configuration works pretty good for what we do now. Looking into the future, something we might want to change to is having just a regular like 6-man cab where we have seats in the back and just storage instead of having this research center there. But it's just something, that we got kind of consider down the road. Maybe we want to put more people on our HazMat truck. We need a little bit better seating than what we currently have now. So I think as it sits now, we have 5 seat belted positions on this truck. It's just 2 are up front and 3 are scattered throughout the back. But it's not really cohesive enough if you want to run a bigger crew on this truck.
Right.
But we can see in the roll-up door here on the right, again, we have the shelving with some of the foam cutouts for our meters to sit in. This way they don't have to sit in their boxes all the time, and they're easy to get to. So it's really quick in the morning when you're starting everything up, just to flip them over, turn them on, and they're ready to go. So up on the top shelf, we have some ToxiRay meters, some Honeywell ToxiRays, and we have chlorine, ammonia, HCN, and CO varieties of those meters. Down below that, we have 3 Sensit Gold G2s, and Sensits are kind of our go-to meters for all of our natural gas leaks, whether it's inside or outside. Those are definitely the go-tos for that. On the shelf below that, we also carry 3 multi-rays on this truck. 2 of them are 4-gas rays, and then one of them is a 5-gas with the VOC on it as well. And above the desk here is just a storage compartment that we have some of our books and manuals in. And then to the left of that, there's another roll-up door. You can see it here on the right. That's kind of our technology compartment, I guess you would say. We carry our laptops and tablets in there, as well as a printer, and anything that we need technology-wise is in there. Up above that, this is just some storage compartments that open up and house against more of the meters. I'm sorry, not more of the meters, more of the manuals. The old school books and things like that you just need to get to sometimes.
You gotta know how to work the books, because
you do. Yeah, you can't always rely on the new stuff to work. So
right.
The books are great resources when you need them.
Yeah, I don't have a signal, or I can't get a hotspot, or whatever doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, you gotta have something to fall back on. So, yeah. So looking back, this is kind of the command center. On the right side, this is a slide out that will go out a couple feet there, and it really gives you a good amount of moving around room in the back of this truck. So this is really the area that our guys are going to sit in, and they're going to get research done. This might be where the officer in charge is going to be while he's running command for the HazMat side of things, if he's not outside the truck walking around. So just looking through this compartment, on the left we have a refrigerator that can be used just to keep some stuff, nice cold drinks in. The shelf next to it is where we keep a lot of our batteries, chargers, any equipment that we need for the meter. So if we need to service something real quick, that's a great surface to be able to do that on. We keep some spare radios there that we can use when we're hooking up our communications equipment, so we don't have to use the radios that we are carrying on us. So those are fully charged, ready to go. We have two TV units that are there. The one on the top is just a regular TV, a little bit old school because it's 2006 truck, but it is just used for an over-the-air antenna so that we can catch local news or weather, whatever we might need to see on that. Below that, we have the bigger TV, and that one is used for our camera system that's on the truck. So this truck is equipped with, I couldn't quote you the exact foot, but a mast that comes out of the top of the truck, much like you'd see on a news truck, with a camera on it that we can move around and we can zoom in and zoom out whenever we need to see something from a pretty good distance. The seat in the very back of the truck looks like a typical firefighter seat with an SCBA in it, but this one actually has our SCBA pony pack in it, which is just basically an extra air bottle inside of a frame that we can carry around with us if we need a little bit of extra air while we're operating a level A suit. We can hook up one of our small air hoses to it, and we can have a whole extra hour bottle to work off of.
Nice.
Then, of course, we got a roof-mounted air conditioner and the control panel for the generator there in the back and all the electrical on the truck. So to this HazMat truck, we have a HazMat resource pod, which you can see in that last slide of the red building there. These pod trucks, we've been using them for quite a number of years now. They were purchased part of like a 9/11 grant. So I want to say around 2008-ish is when we put them in service. We have one that is just a resource pod, and these are just your typical roll-off style pods. So one of them just houses HazMat equipment, which would be extra level A suits, extra level B suits, extra HazMat boots, extra zip zorb. We also keep our main bulk supply of foam on that resource pod as well. Currently on that pod truck, we're carrying about, I think it's 35 buckets, 35 5-gallon buckets of fire aid, AR, AFFF that we can deploy, wherever we need to in the county. It also has a bulk quantity of absorbent pads, booms, things like that on it that we, might need when necessary. If we can get that picture to pull up on the other bay, we have another pod truck, and that is our mass decontamination pod. And it is built to be kind of a self-contained decontamination unit. So once that pod is deployed, there it is. So once that pod on the right is deployed, we're able to connect to a fresh water source via a fire hydrant or what have you, or just a pumper. It has its own diesel generator on it, so we use that to run all the lights, the air conditioning or heating system on it, and also has water heaters as well. So that truck is set up to have 2 decon lines in it where people come in the back doors. We can have 2 going at the same time. They go through different shower modules, and then they can get dressed and then exit the truck, and they'll be fully deconned and ready to go.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's been great. We haven't had any, actual calls that we've had to use that on, but we used it in a few training scenarios where we've had a large number of people that had to get deconned, and it's relatively quick to set up for what it is, and we can really move some people through there pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a great system, having everything ready to go. Somebody could and anybody could come. If you guys are somewhere else, I'm assuming anybody could come and drive this to where it needs to be, right?
Yeah, so we do a vehicle certification for every truck.
Perfect.
And these are no different. So these trucks aren't manned, so we will have to drop somebody usually off of our squad or off of the HazMat to go get these.
Gotcha.
Also part of our response, the engine can go out of service as well, and if somebody's checked off on one of these trucks, they can grab it and go. Our TRT team also has a similar pod truck setup, so all those guys are checked off on those pods and their pods. So if we needed to take one and got there and realized, hey, we need the other pod, they can respond with their truck, pick up our pod, and bring it with them. So we have a lot of different options that we can utilize, if we need to.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a neat little setup. So,
It definitely works well. So
let me
you
ask
get a
you,
lot quickly.
yeah, let me ask you a question. What is your in the years you've been on? What would you recommend to somebody like trying to spec out a truck or start a hazmat team or what have you? And then also a little hazmat tip nugget or something that you want to throw out there to everybody.
Yeah, well, as far as specking out equipment, I think right now we're in the middle of trying to look into the future for what we want to spec out for our next hazmat truck, and it's hard to kind of visualize where we're going to be, at the end of that truck service life.
Right.
Because this current truck, we've been in it for a good while, and it's definitely due for replacement. So we can only expect that the next truck that we get is going to have to last us for the next 10, maybe 15 years.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is just trying to make sure we have something a little bit larger, with a little bit more room. And even if we're not using it right now, I'm sure it's something that we're going to be able to fill up in the future. Um, it's also a consideration, the amount of manpower that we have available to utilize on these trucks. It's because we don't run full scale hazmat incidents, frequently. It's easy to overlook the fact that you are going to run out of people pretty quick. So having a large truck with a lot of equipment and a lot of people on it is something that you definitely have to have in order to make things function well.
Yeah, and then even, maybe once you get a bigger truck, you have this one, you keep as like a backup or you're busy on another hazmat call,
Right.
somebody can come take that one and get something started or whatever. I know different departments tried to do something similar to that.
Yeah, one thing that we've talked about is keeping this current hazmat truck as our reserve and keeping it stocked with as much stuff as we can and keeping it there at the station so that, if a hazmat call comes out, and we've got one team operating, something else comes out, we have a whole other truck that's a backup and ready to go.
Right.
And so we just go there and get it and go. And we do currently have a reserve hazmat truck now. It is just a little bit of an older international model. I say a little bit; it's a good bit older, but it still functions, and it's a little bit smaller than what we have now, but it works in a pinch for what we need. So
Yeah, we had the same thing. We have a smaller truck that resembles a boar's head truck. Matter of fact, that's its nickname. Its nickname is boar's head
yeah,
too. So
yeah.
it has half the amount of equipment, but it's enough to at least get something started. So
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why we have the resource pod available as well with extra equipment on it. So even when we're operating out of that reserve hazmat truck, somebody can bring that pod truck, and we have duplicates of a lot of this equipment
awesome.
in order to make things work. Um, but as far as a tidbit of information, I think it's important for everybody to know that hazmat is definitely not a sprint; it's a marathon, and it takes a long time to get familiar with everything that you need to be up to speed
Yeah.
with. I think we find guys that come on our team and I give them the mindset when they get on, like, hey, it's going to be a couple of years before you start to feel comfortable, riding this truck and responding to these calls. And then even after that, it's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. We got to maintain situational awareness for what's going on around us at all time, be able to think out of the box, at all times, because it's such a variety of different emergencies that we have the potential to run to.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
impossible to be prepared for
I
everything.
think that's what back when I was on Tower One, it was Tower One was at the time we didn't have a heavy rescue truck. It was dive high angle hazmat, and a lot of that's the same. Knots are the same. The dive, everything was a lot of the same. Where hazmat was, always changing, always
Yeah,
evolving, and I made many phone calls to people at 3 a.m. because I had no clue. And like you said, nobody's an
yeah,
expert, and the number one rule in hazmat is if you don't know who to call.
yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that we employ a lot is it's definitely a hazmat team. It's a
Mhm.
team effort. So before we go on calls, we'll try to get all the information off of the MDT that we can. When we get on scene, we get all the information that we can, and we'll kind of have a powwow and talk about it and run over some ideas and make sure that everybody's on the same plan for what we need to accomplish.
Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit, Mark. And if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
The best way would just be to email me at my work email, and that's mark.wade@gwinnettcounty.com.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And before we take off, just want to let everybody know of a couple websites You can check out the HazMat guys, Bobby and Mike from FDNY, are the HazMat guys podcast. They have 300 some odd podcasts. If it's about hazmat, they probably did one. The Hazmat Guys Roundtable, first Tuesday of every month, 9 p.m. Eastern. Bobby, Mike, myself, and Jeff Zintek from Phoenix do a live broadcast, talk about different runs, and do a little role playing. You can chime in and quiz us or throw your 2 cents in. Hazmat Group 2, Hazmatter Group, and Common Sense Hazmat are just other Facebook groups. It's a tight community. You get a lot of good information, and I highly recommend you check it out. Also, want to thank, besides Bobby and Mike, the Hazmat Guys podcast is the sponsor. Responder Training owner Ron Huffman's been in this service for 35 years. He has extensive background in propane emergencies. Ron has developed a 1-inch flare-off kit nicknamed the Dragon Slayer. So contact respondertraining.com and get a hold of Ron Huffman for your flare-off kit needs or water injection classes. Thanks again. I appreciate your time, Mark. And everybody stay safe.